What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year's. New Eve, I guess, is the way to say it for today. Core Conversations. My name is Martin. Thank you for joining us. We got dad goals as always. And yeah, this is going to be a fun day. We had planned to do... Orhan, what's going on? We had planned to do a double feature with Allison joining us and then a second guest coming up. Allison unfortunately couldn't make it, so we got to reschedule that. I'm so excited to still have a chat with her, and that's going to happen. But things all work out in the way they are, and that's how we flow, right? This is just an authentic conversation with people coming in and just sharing their voice and sharing their experience. It's not polished, it's authentic, it's real, it's raw, it's unplugged, and that's what's up. So while we're waiting for people to join us, thank you for joining us on this last day of the year. I'm looking forward to just chilling and just enjoying a conversation. I actually have no clients today. This is not the most productive day monetarily for me, but I like hanging out with you and like planning for the next days and just being reflective on what's been going on. So it's been good in that way to be able to reflect today, and I'm gonna share with you some thoughts on this year. Maybe I'll do like a list and all that stuff later today. I don't know if I'll even get to it, but it's been good so far. Orhan, how are you, my friend? If you want to join me on screen for a moment, that'd be great. I'm just going to do a couple housekeeping things in the meantime. So happy... Yes. All right. Just sending a few notes to some people. To hear from all of you in terms of what is going on. Happy New Year's to my Australia people who are already in tomorrow. Okay. Cool. So here's the deal. This is a Freestyle Friday, and we're just going to spend some time just talking through a few different things as people join us in the chat. Does it work? It does. Cool. I was thinking about doing a workout today too. Hi, Anita. Thank you for your comment yesterday. I got a chance to read it really quickly, but I need to go over that again. If you have a chance, Anita, to join me on screen today, like on right now, jump on. I'd love to have you on and just kind of reflect on some of the things you were saying. We had a great conversation yesterday. Really, really loved talking with Amanda and just how much of a contrast that was from the conversation with Leslie the day before, in a good way. Yes. Yeah, so if you want to join me on screen, I'd love to just hear some of your reflections on it if you have some time and space. It's a sobering conversation for me because I like to press, I like to drive hard with my business. So having that conversation really puts things back into perspective, being grateful and being inspired to move forward and to do the best that I can with what I have in my hands. And that's what I do with my clients as well, is ask the question, what can we do? So to have Amanda in and just to hear where she's going, I'm so excited to see where she's going to be a year from now, where her business is at, and how she continues to broaden her scope with what she does. So if you had a chance to watch the replay from yesterday's conversation, so good. Watch Leslie's from the day before as well, so good. And I can just be so grateful for all the different conversations. I should take some time and just do a review of the chats alone. Have been so rich this year. So Anita, give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go. And we can do this. Never seen. Extensal Pilates, welcome. I forgot my notepad. The chat with Amanda yesterday was it made me reflect on what she was saying about the things that we have to grieve when we have changes in our lives. And she was talking about being able to make dinner, and that sounds like it's not a very significant thing, but when our identity is wrapped up in certain roles and tasks and things that we do, and then those are taken away from us, then it becomes a powerful conversation of like, what does my life mean now? What is the script now? We talked about re-scripting. Thank you. We talked about re-scripting as opposed to reinventing, and just playing with some words, hanging on different words to be able to get a sense of where we are now. What is the new narrative on our life when we have life changes? That conversation was like a small conversation, and just hearing the perspective of where we're at is, whether it's like Leslie Logan talking about our business and advancing things, or being face to face with a life change and having to redefine it. Both of them are a checkpoint in our lives, and the checkpoints are so significant, just much like the end of the year. What does next year look like for you? And that's why I want to spend some time today. And I think there's just a fascinating combination of those conversations over the last couple of days. So Anita, I'm going to bring you on, and we can just kind of just go where that conversation goes.
Hello.
Hi, I was listening to you talk, and I forgot that I'm on the wrong device because this camera is a little bit busted, but it's kind of a cool filter.
Hi, Trisha. Can you like, if you rub the lens, does it take some of that fuzziness out? It's on the inside.
No, it's You know what? I'm going to
Sure.
try logging on with my iPad. If I just change device, so I'll get back on with another device.
See ya.
Right.
And
See you in a bit.
while Anita's figuring that out, let's say hi to Trisha and to Claudia. Trisha, if you get a chance to join me on screen too, I'd love to just touch base with you and hear all that's going on with traveling Pilates instructors for next year. This is a time where we can kind of reflect on where we are, where we were, and where we're going. So I want to, lean into that conversation, and that conversation about what is your cadence, that's going to come up in a minute. I have a guest that's coming on. And just a show of hands, how many of you got a chance to see the video that I just put up a few minutes ago about performing? This little sheet of paper here. There's Tasha as well. Okay, so Tasha, I'm gonna have you, yes, get that workout in. I love that. Anita's gonna come on right now. We're gonna talk for a few minutes, and then Tasha's coming on, and this little sheet of paper here, which is in reverse, you can't really see it properly. If I do this, perform. We're gonna talk about that cadence in 1 minute. Let's see it. Let's get it down. There you go. Yes.
Is that better?
Okay, so I just one real quick thing. Yeah, I'll cut you loose to just talk, but I was just reading your comment the other day that you sent me, and it just made me have this sense of like, you're right. I've talked for this year and have not got canceled for anything. Like one of the comments that you sent
which
to me
comment are you talking
in
about?
my messages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, about the work that you do, that you've opened up this space where conversations are kept alight, and it's a super hard thing to do sometimes.
The gravity of it.
And commend you for it. Thank you for creating this space and
my pleasure.
Inviting me
my
on.
pleasure. It's I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's a passion thing, right? So we kind of flow with what gives us energy to keep doing.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the conversation yesterday? Embracing pain wellness, like.
Big topic. It struck a nerve with me because I've been dealing with hives for, I call them hives, but they're really mysterious. They're very, very bizarre. And so pain, I mean, it made me really empathetic gave me lots of empathy for people who suffer from invisible illnesses. And like how something that we consider hives, something on the skin, and it goes really deep. Actually, I've had to really dig deep, like, and I'm not a superficial person, you know that. But this took me to a whole different level of deep. So I've been reevaluating a lot of patterns, looking at possible causes, and there's also a point where you just say, it is what it is, and you've just got to go through the pain, come out the other end, and it's just going to take
notion
time.
of embracing pain.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been really, really musing on that, because like that sense of embracing pain. My client I had right after Amanda, we were talking about, and she's also a counselor, and she deals a lot with people who have chronic pain. She said, embracing pain is the difference between pain and suffering. Embracing the pain stops the suffering. It doesn't necessarily cease the pain, but it stops the suffering, the mindset around your perspective of your pain.
Well, yeah, because then you have compounded the
absolutely
the damage that pain causes, by dwelling on it, by ruminating on it, by fixating on it, by negating it. You create barriers for your own, what's the word? Growth, I guess. Growth, the whole process, the whole organic organic. I'm looking for the ending of it.
A
little bit
yes,
early for me.
yeah, I can't find it either. Someone help us in the chat, but I follow you.
The
Yes.
organic quality of going through life, and pain is an inevitable part of it. I think that one of the biggest pains of 2021 was hyper focusing on things, and then that caused us, that was a pain for 2021, because we were so, like, everybody, you know, there were memes and jokes about how suddenly everybody
Yes.
was an expert epidemiologist, because we were hyper focused on that. And this meant that there were a lot of interruptions, like for whatever else, you know, our jobs, lockdowns, our reality, our normal, you know, our family, the family fabric, especially for families that have to travel. And so that has, and then fixating and being, you know, we can't not think about the interruptions, but they have compounded the pain of being hyper focused. So that's like, if we could use 2021 as an analogy for that, but it becomes a pattern on so many different levels. Like, this is how we're dealing psychologically with our day to day. This is how we're dealing with losses, with grief. I'm going through, I'm realizing I dug a little too deep with grief from 3 years ago when I lost my mom. And I was like, I actually need to step back from that because it is causing pain. And so it's like, it's this weird thing. So now I'm contradicting myself, but that's that relationship. That's that little dance that you do where you say, you know, I'm just going to sit out this dance, and, you know, let the music play, but there are some things I have to dial back. And that's my way of embracing it too.
And when we were talking yesterday about reinventing ourselves, and I presented the word rescripting ourselves, and she's like, that's better. Because it's not that we're changing who we are, we're just changing how we look at where we are right now.
Right. That's huge. Yeah. Where we are, because who we are always comes with us regardless of where we are. And I think sometimes we work too hard to say, I'm not this, I'm not that person anymore, I am this, I am my future plans, my future expectations. And maybe that's one of the struggles that we've had in 2021 is expectation has been
absolutely
like, we expect it to be in a different place.
And that happens, but that happened. I made a post about that this morning too. Like, we expect it to be in a different place, but the uniqueness about the last 2 years is that there was more external forces that were interrupting where we get to. So it wasn't just like I ran out of time or I ran out of energy or whatever. It's just like, no, the government said I can't work today. Like, you know what I mean? Saying like there's so there's a lot of
Canada,
different
especially
heavier external factors that come and interrupt that. So now maybe we need to re-gauge, re-script what it is success looks like, achievement looks like, you know, accomplishing looks like, you know, that sort of thing. So that's the essence of what I put out this morning. So it's I like you, I'm talking out loud. I'm the type of person who would just pull away, process it, and come back with something. It's still like way like
This and I was watching your, when you went live, I was watching your reel. Was it the reel about the perform? Taking notes there. I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. And it's you know, it's a hard to, I think we have expectations of like, well, if I have all this time on my hands, I'm just going to organize my life. How what can go wrong, right? Like, how hard can that be?
Oh, famous last words. Yes.
And I think that's also been kind of like this moment of reckoning of, oh, that's hard. Just like day to day, like just keep putting one foot forward. And I could say that from month to month, my plans have been kind of, you know, especially last month with these hives. It's been one surprise after another. So I think with that kind of, I think I have to just accept that with humility and keep going. Just say, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. It's always good. It's always a good exercise. I like that you called it an exercise. It's an exercise that we do, and it's got all these different.
Yes.
Some people think in terms of pie charts. I like how you had them
Mm-hmm.
blocked off, or colors or whatever, and find that system that's going to help us. Again, bring the
Yes.
whole organic flow and process, or what you call cadence, into our
Mm-hmm.
life as we go forward. And it's going to be a fluid
Yes.
thing. Like as Pilates teachers, we talk about flow. So maybe it's going to be, all 5 boxes, or maybe it's going to be,
Right.
like I've got to
Yeah.
focus on
Right.
3 things for this week. So I'm kind of in that space right now where I think I just have to say, all right, let's just focus on 2 or 3 things for a week or 2.
Layer something
And then
else
the
in.
next,
Full more thing. Yeah. Right.
part, right. Yeah. Yeah, I can't do all of it all the time. I think that's what I've also realized. I kind of tortured myself, and I backed myself into a corner and
Yeah.
stressed
Right.
myself out.
Yes.
You can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
There's
COVID times.
Dr. Greg Wells, he has an article where he says that there's no such thing as multitasking. And right, because like your brain
Yeah,
basically it just switches between tasks faster. It doesn't actually ever do both tasks at the same time. Neurologically, it's impossible. It's just I'm doing
right.
this now, I'm doing this. So
Yeah,
whatever you shift your focus to, like your brain doesn't actually multitask. It just gets in the habit of changing between the tasks faster and faster to the point it looks like it's multitasking. So you're
yeah. It's funny that you bring that up, because that's something that's always in the back of my mind. Talk about multitasking. As I'm
you're fooling
multitasking, and
yourself.
I think, I'm fooling myself. And my body, like I
Mhm.
slammed into a wall with this hives business, and it was like, now those words resonate
Yes.
in a very, very different way.
Right.
I'm a
Well, I
believer
think that's
now.
what that caused me to put that post up this
Yeah.
morning because I was going to do my regular, this is what I did this year, this is who I talked to, this is what I achieved, this is what my business did. And I stopped for a second, like
Right.
all year long we've been talking about embracing the moment, embracing the process, da 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 da, all these different things. So why am I going to turn around and just rattle off my achievements? Because we've been moving towards this process and just finding a cadence and giving ourselves permission when we don't get to these things. Like, so why would I now boast all my
Mm-hmm.
achievements after? I'm not knocking anyone who does that because there's plenty of things to celebrate and to be grateful for. But like, you know what I mean? Like I just had to stop for a moment and
Right.
think about, well, why don't I just continue to just celebrate the process of where we've been going through?
Right. Yeah. Also, yeah. But I do like that you brought that up, because when I saw that, I was like, oh, I think I forgot to do that. And that would be
Hmm.
that would be cake for me. I can't eat cake right now, so that'll be my cake.
There you go.
I'll make it a 7-layered cake. There must be
Yeah,
things
for
that I
sure.
can say I accomplished
Yeah,
this
it's
year,
still a
at
good
least.
practice. I mean, it is a really good practice, but I just had it just gave me pause for a moment, right? So yeah,
Yeah, I like that. I like to think through everything, and that I think I called you um, multi a multifaceted listener, and I think you do that to yourself as well. You're listening to yourself on many different
hmm.
levels, and you bring that to the conversation, to people that you talk to, and I've learned a lot watching you
Thank
talking to
you.
people.
I have too. Yes.
Very meta.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I am going to bring Tasha Edwards on. Yes, so we're going to talk a little bit more,
Awesome.
unpack this piece about the cadence and just like that post I had this morning and piggyback off what we just talked about now
Sure.
because this is all good stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So if I don't
Thank
see
you.
you, happy new year and yeah.
And same to you. We still have how many hours left? Yeah, we have
Yeah.
about 12 hours.
Thank you.
So enjoy the end of the year.
All right, take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I mean, multifaceted listener. That it's I I didn't want to take away from that compliment, but I really feel, and Tammy probably appreciates this too, that is the maturity of my Overthinkers Anonymous mindset coming to a place where I can just listen, but not be paralyzed by what I'm hearing. We can get paralyzed by what we hear when we're listening to all these different things. So I'm trying to find a way to actively listen, enjoy, embrace, lean in, blah, 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 do all those things and keep moving forward instead of getting paralyzed by what I hear. So that's, I really appreciate that compliment, being multifaceted listener, because that's important to me. That's really, really important to me. So I appreciate and I receive that compliment. Thank you, Nina. Let's get Tasha on. Good to go, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning. I made it. Face shining and everything. I made it.
Get in Starbucks.
Yeah, as my grandma would say, girl, get that shine off your face. So yeah.
I'm good.
Like, how are you this morning?
Maria Earl, Danica, you girls just make me smile every time I see you. Like
I receive that. Well, and you know, some of it is what a friend used to tell me. It's a feeling of home. Like, you know, hey Gary, it's a feeling when you know you're at home with someone's soul or in someone's presence. That's where the smile comes from. It's like, you know, your warm blanket or your coffee or whatever. And
it's a good thing, and
that's
it's a fascinating thing for me because we've never met. These are my digital friends, and I call my like my digital friends and my in real life friends, and my digital friends that are going to be in real life friends at one point, and my digital friends, which I'll celebrate, even though we probably never will cross paths in this lifetime. And people are in these different kind of categories in my head, and I treat you like an in real life friend.
Yeah, good. And well, if you think friendships in general, and tell your daughter thank you. We appreciate the hearts. In general, I think my friends are in categories like, and I told someone, if I needed someone to pray for me, I knew who to call. If I needed someone to roll out and be petty with me, I know who to call. If I wanted someone to shoot tequila shots with me, I know who to call. If I wanted someone to go dancing with me, I know who to call. You know, like that sort of thing. And so I think that's what makes life full, is to have these people, all our friends, but in a different way. That's what helps us to be holistically well.
Not to go so heavy so quick, but when I was going through my divorce, I had two types of people that I could walk with and do stuff with, and they have no clue what's going on in my life and just be content with. And there's people who knew every detail of every fight and everything that happened that last minute. And both of them were equally important. And I needed them to stay in those specific lanes for me to cope.
Right, exactly. Because there are people, what I call, there are people who know South Side Tasha, and that might be different from people who know Alabama Tasha. And maybe there's a little cross sometimes, but there are times that I do want to be around people who don't know all of my struggles. Let's just be.
Right.
Let's just be. Let's not talk about that. Let's just be.
That was the conversation yesterday too,
that.
right? When we're talking about embracing pain and stuff like that. Like, there's that sense of just being. If you get a chance to watch that conversation with Amanda yesterday, it was really, really powerful. Just hearing her talk through being a coach for people through these life stages, and her going through her pain too. Where it's like, I'm just gonna coach you guys from my pajamas from my bed today because I don't have the energy, and that. Owning that is
and ownership. yeah, I can't remember who it was, which is why I didn't post it, because I like to give people their credit. But Teach Not Han, I believe, that pain is
Yes.
inevitable, suffering is
Right.
optional. And I think specifically for people who have been active all of their life or most of their life, like the idea, like even today when I was training my client, I was like, whoa, hip. I was like, okay, Tasha, you're not the 30-year-old who teaches yoga 5 times a week. You're not her. Or like every little, instead of being angry, which I've had lots of injuries and lots of issues, and instead of being angry at the pain, it was a learning from it. Like, is this a lifestyle change that I need to make? Is this a growing pain? I'm not 30 anymore. Is that it? As opposed to being angry and trying to fight back, and all I want to do is not be in pain. But I feel like the mental part of that, like you were saying, the mental part of that was worse than any pain that I felt physically. Yeah, so definitely coming out of that jail. As far as I think sometimes pity parties are necessary. They just stop inviting people to them so the party can end.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's,
do you feel, are you,
that's where I am for sure.
Proud of yourself is not exactly the right word, but like when you look back at how you handled that, are you content with the way that you finally navigated, dug yourself out of the hole, and the way that you presented it to the world and all this stuff? When you look back at it, do you feel like you did a good job of that whole journey, even though the journey continues in different ways?
I try not to have regrets. I do wish that I had slowed down some in the process to allow myself to process what was actually happening to me, and then to create space to heal, as opposed to, that, and I would tell my children, sometimes you have to play injured, which is true. But I feel like as an overachiever, that there were times that I pushed and made the pain and the suffering worse, because I felt like I needed to show up in a different kind of way. And people are like, I had no idea. Of course you didn't, because I have learned how to play this role for so long. And now, I mean, I don't want to go broadcast every ache and pain, but also it frees people and it frees us to let people know that we aren't perfect. And it does make us more empathetic to what people are going through, which was why I went and filmed for John Gary in May. And it was just earlier this month that I told that story about how I taught 18 classes that week and got injured in the middle of class number 2. And I had to make a decision. I mean, like all the crying and the ice and the calling people and the limping around and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, John, I'm good. I can do this. But I felt like I needed to keep it a secret. I mean, like if you look at the videos, you can see that I have a wrap on my leg, but I am like getting it. And I feel like I did 2 things, Martin. Like I conquered it, but I also let it conquer my ego. If that makes sense, because I'm like, you can't know I'm hurt. Like, let me wrap this stuff up. And even on the picture, I told someone last night in our mastermind group, I was like, if you look at the picture that's posted this week, one foot is crossed over the other. And I'm kind of like this. Well, that was the class that I got injured in. I couldn't stand on my foot. And so to try to, we have to find that balance between what I would call saving face and getting it done. There's a balance. And I feel like I was like a pendulum. Like
that's
never found
basically why I was asking that question. Because we're always fighting for that middle. And there's times when, without talking about regrets, where we feel like we probably could have been more vulnerable in that moment, and that might have helped someone, for them seeing our humanity. But there's times when we probably shouldn't have shared that much of the story because we were just crying and looking for attention. You know what I mean? So we're just like always swinging this pendulum but that's it. And that's the dance. That's the new thing we need to play about. And I was joking about that yesterday. My clients love it when I'm late. They love it when I forget about a session. They love it when I double book myself because they're like, you're human. It happens to all of us because we spend so much time trying to put these masks on and trying to present like we're flawless. They revel in my humanity when I mess something up.
Yeah, for sure. And it's conditioning. I was actually talking to my therapist about this the other day, like digging stuff out, because someone asked me, like, I have diagnosed PTSD. Like, that is just not a statement that I use, that I throw around. And she said, you mean that happened when you were a teenager and like you're still, and that, like, that's still affecting you? Yes. And what we were talking about in my session the other day was the fact that I was raised in a magnet school. Like, I went to magnet schools my whole life. And there was a time that I was a straight A student because everybody was a straight A student. Like, that was just the way it was. And I can remember my mom, like, my mother would be like so mad because she's like, I can't believe you're still holding on to that. But it was a moment in time that I went through this period of rebellion and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. And then I got back on track. And I remember getting all A's and B's and a C in spelling, right? Probably because I didn't study, let's just be honest. But I had a sibling who was going through some things and it affected me. And my sister had basically cut school the whole semester. Like, she had like all F's, like literally. And my mom went ballistic about my C in spelling. And it was the feeling of always being, I was always the good girl. I was always the good kid. I was the one that everybody bragged on. And to have been bullied and stuff a lot, it was like it was my secret weapon. You know, like, if I could be perfect, at least like my family won't tease me. I might get bullied. You know, it was like being bullied at school because I lived in the projects, but I lived in the projects and none of the kids went to a magnet school. So they bullied me for being smart. And then it was like the only way that I can succeed is to be perfect or do what it is that people want me to do so they're not upset with me. Yeah. And that, not just in grades, became an identity that I didn't realize I still had. And not in the sense of, not just in the sense of people pleasing. I have gotten much better during the pandemic, but in a sense of all or nothing. Like, if I can't do it and it's not perfect or it's not the best, I just won't show up. Like, just forget it, you know? And so to still, to like be in that, specifically in an industry where I'm a Black woman in her 40s with big hips and a big butt, like, there is no perfection in that, according to the fitness world, you know? And so the constant struggle with that now makes sense. Like, the eating disorders trying to fit in a space that I was never going to fit in, but in my mind, I can do what you do. So I'll just like starve myself, do whatever, teach 18 classes a week, and then you'll think I'm great, and then I'll feel fine. Yeah. And it did not work out like that.
Right.
It never worked out like that. And so that is what created the space that I feel like I'm walking into in 2022. When me and you talked about cadence, and not just cadence, but for me, it's emerge. Like, coming out of those shadows, like whatever those hey, there's my brother, I miss you. And coming out of that, almost like I'm covered with what other people thought I should be, and the idea that I needed to be that,
like you're covered with
to be
15 blankets, and now it's not just warm and comfortable, it's actually heavy and uncomfortable, and you need to get out from all this cover.
And when you sleep, you have one, I sleep with like 100 blankets. I might stick an arm out because I'm hot, but eventually I'll put it back in. I'll stick a leg out, and I feel like that's the dance that I have been taking. And people are like, how are you so vulnerable? Because if I'm not, I keep myself in this prison. And your liberation gives other people permission, or the space, even the thought, to liberate themselves. And that's how we heal in community. I mean, I could post a picture of a perfect teaser every day of the week. It might take me 2 hours to get one, but that's not the people that I'm supposed to connect with, Martin. That's not what they want from me, and that's not what I want to give them.
Do you ever feel weak when you're sharing your vulnerable stories? Like straight up weak?
Sometimes. Like, well, okay, so let me say I feel weak before I share it. And there's a sitting with that. Because what I have defined as weak is what other people have defined for me as weak. Because I was called weak for a large portion of my life for being I am highly sensitive, but I'm also highly intuitive. And so, like, falling victim, I want to say, as to I can take on other people's emotions, and I mean, it can wreck me if I'm not careful. And people consider it weak because I couldn't say no, or I cried about it. Like I needed to go like recover, like mentally as an introvert, like all of this stuff. And words like weak and pessimistic and mediocre, and words that people threw at me that they didn't even know I caught. And I'm talking about single digit age. That what people labeled me as negative, that in my adult life, as I have went through all of the situations, was to redefine and be able to break from that voice that's over here saying you're weak. Like in my family, you do not tell your business. Like there are things that I have still not said that if I said in public, people would be like, you know what? Now who you are,
but you don't want to put that family shame out there for their sake.
For their sake. Now it's the names have been changed to protect the guilty. That's what I call it. Names have been changed to protect the guilty. And I take it back to one specific incident, other than just being raised like that. Like, that's just the family rule. Like, I would never leave my mom's house and go to my grandma's house and tell anything. Like, I might as well just go jump off a cliff. Like, when I was 25, I self-published a book of poetry. Like, that's my thing. I'm a writer. And I had a friend named Jacinta, and I worked at a community center, and Jacinta was one of the GED students. And we were all really close. I mean, we spent all day together all the time. And she was the baby of the family, and she had two big sisters who were like close to my age, and they called her Brown Sugar. Like, that was her name. And her new boyfriend, after she didn't want to marry him after a month, basically shot her in the head and then killed himself.
Wow.
And when I write, that's me working on the pain. And so in this book, I wrote a poem called Brown Sugar. And so only people who knew her, even though I think I put her name at the top, like under it, I have to look at the book. My mom called. And my mother asked me, was I gay? Like, was I lesbian? I said, well, why would you say that? Because no woman would write a poem about another woman and call her brown sugar. And I felt like I had to explain. And so there are just things that I don't ever want to explain, but my parents and my family are who they are. And so out of respect for them and how they process things, to take that as a disrespect, I have decided that there are certain things that I just don't talk about. Yeah, in public, like in my private spaces, of course, there are things that people know, and one day I will write another book. But when you're raised like that, people, and not just that, let's even talk about social media. And now when you share something, people think it's because you want likes. Like people assume that there's always some underlying issue, when the truth of the matter is all of us are trying to get free. Like we're trying to get that, we're trying to get that stuff out. And we all process that differently. So actually, I'm going to say I feel weak before I write it, but to have the strength to tell my story in my own words,
absolutely, 100% agree with that.
Strong point.
Yeah.
It only takes one time for something personal, or what I call bad, to make international news, for you to change your perspective, because you can't hide at that point, and I decided at that point that I would always own my own story, that if you ask me, chances are I'll tell you, or I already just told you. So now you don't have to ask. I beat you to the punch with that. I just told you.
No room for your own interpretation with the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I just told you. And that's part of the emergence, is owning, is ownership, like of taking this, call it the New Year's Eve striptease, but like taking it off, because that doesn't belong to me. And I want to be in my own soul and dress that.
Talk about that reflection on the year with the word cadence and emergence, and where you felt like I hit the mark and where I felt like I missed the mark within that.
Oh my gosh. I didn't have a cadence. I felt like I was trying to survive. And I think what happens is, when you're in the public eye, whether that's what you deem as small or not, that for me, there was a bounce back and forth. I think almost waiting for someone else to give me an opportunity. And I did not prepare for Tasha's stuff. Now, I continued to train clients. I did all of that. But there was no continuity in what it was that I was doing. Like, I knew I was unhappy, but I didn't know what part of my work was making me feel like that, because all I've done for 17 years is work. I teach classes, I train clients. I don't have to be happy. That's just the way it is. Then came, the conferences and the workshops and the invitations, and I get ready for it. And then like 3 days after it, I wouldn't remember. I'd be on, I got 3 new followers. I'm on to the next thing. And I did not establish a cadence for Tasha. I did not establish boundaries. It was like they had a cord on me, and somebody would yank me this way, and somebody would yank me that way, and somebody would yank me this way. And then I didn't understand why I was tired, but I was on all of this. And so people thought I should have been grateful, when the truth of the matter is I was extremely unhappy. I didn't know what I was doing. I was unorganized. I had nothing to show for myself. And so the emerge part was specifically the podcast. And people who know me know I've had like 100 podcasts and I never keep up with them. And the podcast for me was for me to have a voice. You know, sometimes I talk to people and sometimes I don't, you know, and but that has allowed me to establish a cadence and also have a place for Tasha to be herself and talk about the issues that matter to her. Like the podcast I had before this one, the most popular episode was called So I Have a Therapist. Because it wasn't something that people were talking about. And my therapist asked me, on your podcast, will you ever talk about having a therapist? I was like, sure.
I like that because I normalized the conversation around it. And you've seen that more people are now talking about that. My therapist said this, my counselor said this, my mental health provider said X, Y, Z. Normalizes the conversation. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it is being open to it would be fake for me to, and I have to record a podcast tonight for tomorrow, for me to say 10 ways for you to conquer 2022. Because number one, Tasha doesn't talk like that. And I think nothing is a 5-point plan. But I'm actually doing a self-care workshop at IDEA in February. It's for personal trainers because it's a personal trainer institute. But I feel like this is also my space because we just give ourselves away. And so my 10-point plan, everybody who's listening, is this. I'm going to give it to you for free. BOUNDARIES. That's your 10-point plan. It's called boundaries.
Yes.
That's it. Decide, draw the parameters, what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And I mean behaviors, relationships, work assignments, late clients, how much you're getting paid, like all of this. That's your 10-point plan. But people are looking. When I was writing blogs, people would tell you that that's the way to get people to read your blog. Like,
here's the 3-point plan. Like, it's like a sermon, right? Like, here are the things, and right? Here are your takeaways.
Here are your takeaways. Well, and that's how I struggle when I present at conferences, because they're like, what are your takeaways? I'm like, I don't know. But I like to give people the conversations that I'm having with myself, which is, for me, New Year's. I don't knock people who have New Year's resolutions because I changed my life because of one. And so to encourage people to do what makes them get to the starting line.
I like that.
What helps you get to the starting line? And you can call it resolutions. You can call it goals. You can call it Beyonce. You have got to get to the starting line, and whatever does it for you to know that there is some change that needs to occur for you to upgrade and get to I don't care what you call it. And so what I probably need to just republish the other podcast, because I said the exact same thing, that people come in and feel like they have ownership of a treadmill or a podcast, of a reformer, or it doesn't belong to you. Well, they'll be out of the gym by February. They probably will be if you are their support system, because you're telling them they're not going to make it. And when my classes, Martin, we would be in there like this, and like, no lie, like sardines. And if somebody came in, I would always say, make room, because you never know what it took for someone to take that step to get here.
Yeah.
We'll just dance small.
I'm gonna cancel on that start line thing for a minute, because that is so key. And even with some of the clients I used to train for like Ironman competitions, and you see them, they're out there and they're doing their rides on one day and their swims on the next day, and they're doing these things. Over time, I learned I don't ask people, like people who've run an Ironman, I never ask them, what place did you finish in? I don't ask them what their time was. I celebrate the fact that they got to the start line. Because the energy and the commitment, the mental commitment, the physical training, the obstacles, the excuses, and everything it took to get to that start line is the victory in and of itself. Doesn't matter if you came in 1 minute before the cutoff of 12 hours or if you finished first place, you got to the start line.
Exactly. And that's the hard part. I always tell people that starting is the hard part. Like when I would get clients who I had a specific one. She's the first one that comes to mind. And she literally told me, I hate exercise. I just hate it. I'm like, great. I should probably charge you extra, but okay. But I used to tell my clients when they were getting in the habit of coming to the gym, drive up. Maybe you just sit there, get out the car, come through the turnstile, and then if you want, go home. And they used to think I was crazy. And I was like, no, because the hardest part is getting used to coming to the gym. Get in. And if you feel like you don't want to exercise, leave. But put yourself in the habit of driving up. Maybe you don't get out the car. Maybe you just park in the parking lot to get in the habit of making the gym a part of your routine, no matter how long you stay. And, 10 years ago, that was extremely controversial. Like, I think this girl has probably lost her mind. And nobody ever did that exercise and didn't stay. They're like, okay, well, I'll walk 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes is more than what you were doing yesterday. And that it's those small, they call them Kaizen steps. Like, what's the absolute smallest step you can take to get to the next thing, and I have clients who pack their bags at night. They pack their lunch. They have their cute little workout clothes and their locks, and they're perfect. And that's fine for them. But there are other clients that literally, it's like they need somebody to like pull them out the bed. And a client last month said, you almost didn't have a client this morning. I said, well, guess what? You almost didn't have a trainer this morning because it's cold.
That's real talk,
and I'm tired.
Right?
Like they're
we're human.
Yeah, because we're human. Nobody wakes up, well, I don't, and jump up out of the bed at 4:30 in the morning in the winter. It's 20 degrees outside. And I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to do squats and listen to someone talk about the drama at their job this morning. That is what I live to do. No, I am like, oh my God, like putting water on my face, like I'm trying to like find my clothes in the dark, like, and it's like that for all of us. But like you said, your clients want that, they want to see that humanity. And I will tell them, I struggled this morning. I'm here. Here's my coffee.
I like those moments too, because then those are the moments where I come back to empowering them to say like, you're worth it because I'm here right now because of you, right? Like, and there's so many other better things that you're doing, but this is worth it. You are worth it. This is key, right? So we empower people with those messages. That start line, we're at New Year's Eve. We're going to 22. We're right back at a start line again. What does that look like for you?
Yeah.
In light of what we've been talking about.
I am sitting behind the starting block with a glass of wine. Like, do I really have to do this? Like that's kind of the feeling. Like, I'm not on the starting block yet. Like, there are things that, like I'm surrounded by like stickers and calendars because organization is not my ministry, but I know that like I'm literally getting ready to topple over the start line. And the thing about it is that's not so my kids run track, so everything sounds like that. But I don't call tripping off of the starting block a false start and make you start over, because that constant starting over, it takes your mojo away. You have to get in the right brain space again. And for some of us, it could take 6 seconds, but it might take 6 months. My thing is, if you stumble off the starting block, the track is still in front of you. And you don't have to start over. You may start slow. You may not have gotten off to the start you wanted to, but the track is still in front of you, and there's no reason to get back on the block. You know, and that's for coming into the year with so many medical challenges and physical. And so even as a trainer, you know, I go in, I want to train like Tasha trained 10 years ago. Like I want to be able to go in and put the rack on my back and do the squats and do the rows and my body's like, I think the most I've been able to hold on my back is like 20 pounds since I herniated that disc. And that's hard for somebody who taught body pump with 40 pounds on their back, you know. And it's a stumble. So for me, I'll walk today, or I will dance today, or I will go use the leg press instead of racking on my back, or maybe I'll do 10 minutes of stretch and try not to be the teacher, or turn on this laptop and let somebody else be the teacher, and just allow myself to not have to be the leader, and to say that it's okay that I don't have a 21-point plan to start off the new year for, you know, the best body and the best mind space. The truth of the matter is just get started. And that might be walking around the couch 5 times if you've been sitting on it for 6 months.
I got into this practice the last few weeks with my clients, where when I was planning for their day, instead of saying we're going to do this exercise and that exercise, I would say, like, I want Paul to feel strong today. I want Susan to feel competent today. I want so-and-so to feel whatever. So instead of, you know, reps and sets or tower and then chair, it's like, how do I want my people to experience movement today? So it took away the sense of they need to get to 40 pounds on their squat, and it left them with, okay, they can't load their back. We can do this. I can get them to do whatever exercise in my head and my toolbox I want to put them in, so that at the end of the day, they walk away like they feel strong, or they feel powerful, or they feel flexible, or they feel happy, or they feel relaxed. I started to chase after the feeling and the experience instead of the numbers and the achievements, because of, like what you're just saying right there, their body may not give them permission to do that which they did 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 6 days ago. So how can I still find, much like our Pilates, where can I find this in the work, that which they need to do?
Yes. And I pulled this paper because I shared this. I'm in a group with Michelle and Danica and Mindy and Nikki and Tanisha. And so we were talking last night, and I created this sheet for me to work on for writing classes, because I don't teach anymore, which is almost traumatizing. But I'm working on my choreography for John. And I put things like, you can't see it, but it has like, what type of vibe are you going for this class? Like, what type of mantra will you consider when you're teaching this class? And how do you want people to feel when they are done? Is my bottom question. And one other thing, Martin, for me, is that I feel like Pilates has come off as like Mean Girls. Like, that's what it felt like to me. And so one of the things that I showed them was I put my basic exercises, and then I put, what are 3 ways you could upgrade this class? And what would you do if you weren't afraid? You know, and so it is very client centered, pulling out the coaching and the counseling words. It's client-centered, because my goal for you should never trump your goal for yourself, right? But it is our job to co-create that relationship, because if my 70-year-old client comes in saying she wants to deadlift 200 pounds because she saw it on TV and she's never done a deadlift in her life and she has a bad hip, I mean, you know, and to establish that type of relationship where you're co-creating, because we are not in the driver's seat. Now, she can go somewhere else and do that. I might say, okay, so let's talk about this, you know, to give the education. That's my job. But ultimately, if I had to start her with 5-pound deadlifts because she swears she wants to do it, you know, if that makes her feel empowered to try a deadlift, then that's our skill, to be able to progress or regress things back. But I'm with you. It's the when you leave, when you go in the locker room, what's on your mind? I never want people to feel defeated. And sometimes they're like, well, your class was easy. Well, maybe for some people, but I want you to feel successful when you leave here. And if that means, you know, Joe Blow back there is going to stand on his head no matter what you say. So maybe Nancy is who I'm focusing on, so that when she leaves here, if she did one roll up, she feels successful. So I'm so with what you said. We are definitely in alignment on that, because it's that. Forget how many exercises we get done. Forget how many pounds is on the.
And that comes full circle to how we look at 22, right? And that's why I put that post up this morning, where, like, you know, saying like this perform analogy for me was like, instead of saying I achieved this, I got this, I did this, I, you know, acquired this, it's like I connected with this person, I made this person feel this way, I got to this place, I did something that was for this concept, right? So I'm changing the paradigm for myself from this achievement based thing to, okay, well, we still need to do stuff, we still have things that we have to be grateful for, but, like, you know, what we're saying about right now, there's a sense of what is really important, and can we carve out space for those things that are really important, not what the world says is important, not what social media says is important, not what even Martin 5 years ago says is important. Like, what is important today to me, and does that have time in my schedule? Is that reflected in my daily schedule?
Yes, that's what Nikki said last night. And it's weird when we're talking about, like, people, like, you feel like home, that you're your friends. So I'm on the Zoom, I ask all the questions, and Nikki said, hey, can you stay on a little bit, Tasha? I'm like, sure, girl, what you want to talk about? And she was basically like, I see it in your eyes. What's up? And we stayed on for like another hour. And one of the things she was saying was, is always, here's the other thing. Like, this is how they say, when somebody says something to you or speaks a word to you, it should never catch you by surprise. It should always be confirmation. That's how you know it's true. And so she said, my words were just for today. And so I pulled out this little coloring book I had that said just for today. And about being focused on what's happening right now. Like, I can be like, I can find myself worrying about whether my grandson's going to have to get a student loan. He's 18 months, right? And so I told them, like, you know, financial planners will tell you need to plan, and then you make yourself crazy. And Martin, last night, I couldn't even remember 2021. It was like I had to go through my phone. I was like, oh, like you said, when you're talking about achievements, oh, I did this. Oh, I forgot about this. Oh, here's what I remember. Having shots in my back in January because I had sciatic pain so bad that I couldn't climb into bed, and getting to be with my grandson. That's what I remember. You know, the other things feed in, but, and it was the relationship where I got to fly to LA with Michelle, we wrote back together, or who I got to talk to. I refer to the conversation that the three of us had all the time on Cadence, and those meaningful things, not even what I bought or what I, like, I'm getting rid of stuff. I'm like, why did you buy this? Like, what kind of mood were you in when you just paid X amount of dollars for this to try to feel better about yourself? And it's the feelings that I want. And a girlfriend, I can't read it because I'm on my phone, but she sent me this text this morning, and I looked at it while I was training, and it almost took me out, because it was like, I survived because of you. Like, you helped me in this space this way. And it was so overwhelming, because I thought, how many people are there you never hear on social media who had to pull me out of the hole, and did it without asking for anything, or without posting on social media that they did anything for me. Those are the moments that have now completely changed my mood this morning, because I'm like, I wouldn't have survived if that person didn't know this about me and knew that this Tasha behavior meant this, and that she needed to call me or come get me, or tell me to go to dinner or have coffee. That's how I feel like I'm ending the year, instead of feeling like 2021 kicked my butt, because it did in a lot of ways. And that's how I felt. I was like, 2021 kicked my butt. And then I was like, but my butt is still here. And that puts me back at the starting line. No matter how many times I do a race, you always learn something different. The scenery is different. Your body is different. Your cadence is different. But to be back at the starting line, whatever happened in 2021, I made it, and so I think that we have been, in general, very hard on ourselves, specifically in this industry, because everybody got a YouTube, podcast, TikTok, Reels. When do I post? And I think people are calming down, number one. Well, a lot of us calming down, because it ain't that deep. And even you, like, changing from, like, I don't know if you notice this about yourself, how more insightful and connected, like, there's an evolution of how, when you first started, not to say you've never been that person, but saying the way you hold conversations has, like, you can see the growth. And that's what we want. It's the growth, not the numbers. Like, the soul growth, the mind growth, the community growth. Like, people will follow you and unfollow you for, like, the rest of your life. And numbers in that sense, as far as growth,
it really isn't.
That's not a way to measure growth. It's not. No, it could mean that you just posted 5 times a day because you had nothing else to do and you felt like you needed to do it. That's what numbers could mean. But growth, like, I know that I can call you. I know I can call Michelle. I know, like, that we are not, nobody's in competition. There's a growth cycle, and we've gotten to know each other, and that's the growth. So we're starting together, as opposed to starting as people who just do the same thing.
Well said. That's exciting.
Yeah. It is. It is. Yeah. To feel like you're not by yourself, because it could feel very isolated. I mean, I live in Huntsville, Alabama. It's not like we're, like, brimming over with Pilates teachers. As a matter of fact, I may be the only Black Pilates teacher in town. I know a couple who were training at one time, but nobody's inviting me to roundtable so that we can talk about the industry and how we fit. But it can be very isolating. And so to have people who really have your best interest at heart and want to see you win, That's the 2021.
Yes.
That's what I want to remember.
I feel like
Yeah.
2021 is continuing to 22. Like this, it's in a weird way, like the conversation continues, and like today will just come and go. It'll just flow through into a continuation of this walking locked arms, or if you want to stick with the track analogy, it's a relay race, right? Like I get to hand the baton off, and we're collectively running this race. We're not doing single events anymore.
Yes, a continuation of the statement that we said in that conversation.
Here.
We're here. That's 2021. 2022 is,
yes.
And we're not done. We're here, and we're not done.
Amen to that.
And yeah, and we need that because everybody's not. We don't need 6 of us to have core conversations. That's not what we're here for. Someone may have their version of it with a different perspective, and it doesn't mean that we're in competition. It means that I support you the way you do your thing, and then I'm going to support them the way they do their thing, because it's all relevant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too.
Yeah, I like that.
I feel like we solve a lot of stuff. The 2 of us.
Yeah, for sure. But it's speaking that out into the universe, because again, I mean, I write, but writing is an individual healing event. But when we speak and share, then we open the gates for someone else to say 3 words. And I'm pretty sure that you have gotten more than your share of inboxes like, thank you for what you said. You didn't know you helped me. And you're like, what? And there are times I'm like, what did I say? But because that putting it out into the atmosphere is how we grow a community. I mean, my journal is my journal, and God knows I would never get on Instagram and read that. But what I learned from that process, then we can then process that together. And I think that assembly line type of thing, I work on me, you work on you, we come together, we heal each other. That healing goes out into the space where people, their journey's not ours, but they get what they need.
I'm witnessing that through this conversation, just seeing people's comments and just knowing, like, one of the first podcasts I did in this kind of era that we're in, I said, never underestimate the significance of the insignificant. And as I've leaned into that with faith, when I have these conversations, just throw stuff out there, because you don't know what is going to resonate with somebody. And the 7 people that are watching this right now, one of them may repost it to somebody who just needs to hear it. And we may never hear who heard it, what it did for them, how it impacted them, how it changed the trajectory of their life completely. We just go. We just be authentic. We just be right here, right now.
I agree. I wrote an entire blog on Jenna Wolfe was the speaker at a conference I was at one year. And I remember, like, she came next to me and I was like, I'm gonna just take my picture with her. And like, I was trying to get her in the background. She literally came next to me. So I post these pictures, right? But Jenna said something that day. 4 words. I wrote a whole blog, and it is something that I always keep in mind. And Jenna Wolfe will probably never, ever remember me unless I tag her in that picture again, which I might. Now or too late.
That's good.
I will never, that was years ago. And but it was right at the moment that I needed to hear it, which is why I will never forget that. Like I always go back to that. Or, you know, there are friends who have said things to me at the right time. Like I have a friend who his quote was, chance favors a prepared mind. And one day he was doing a live and he said, you have to learn how to modify your hustle. That was about 7 years ago. And I always think of that, of saying that you're never stuck. You can, what you were saying earlier, like the reinvent.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what Victor's a fellow trainer. And I mean, I was having a hard time. And he said, warriors don't retreat. Refocus,
yes,
re-aim, refire.
Yes.
And my word of the year was almost like R-E, because that's what I was thinking. Refocus, re-aim, refire.
Sorry, while you're musing on that, just Judith, for people in the chat here, if you have a word that is your marching orders for 22, yes, please put it in the comment section. Brooke B. Tyler, I see you. Carrie Miller, I see you. If you guys have any kind of marching orders, what are your marching orders for this year? Like your word like I like that. There's something that comes with these words that just empower us as we move into this thing. So sorry, I just wanted to throw that at as you're saying that so people could fill the chat.
No. But you just gave power to that, because this is not to be taken lightly, like some little cute word that you can buy and put on a heart and it's fine. No, you said marching orders. We're talking, that's an action word. So we're talking about taking action. And, you know, the action doesn't have to be, you know, like conquer the world, but there's something that has to get you to the starting line. And so I think when you said marching orders, it gave me a different feel. Like, this is your assignment. This is not boundaries for fun. Create possibilities.
Yes.
Love that, Carrie. Boundaries. Woo-wee. Yes.
You know what was one of mine? Yes. Like, I think this might actually be the word, because I told myself this in my head as I was starting to reflect this morning. Stillness. Be still. If I could just stop everything from spinning for 5 minutes, I will go way further than if I just go.
You need to talk to Danica. I want to say Danica. I believe it was Danica. Danica's word was calm.
Boundaries, speak up, unapologetically authentic is one of them. Love that, Brooke. Amen. Yeah.
And to make that, like, I've had words like power and harmony, but I think there were times that I let it go. And my thing is, this is how you separate your yes from your no. Does this help me emerge, or does it push me back in the shadows? And when I keep that word in front, like, that's my answer.
Yes.
That's literally my answer.
Yes,
stillness
to ensure quiet. Ensure quiet. Right.
Yes.
Time, because there's so much clarity. Yes. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. The pandemic hasn't been all bad, but, you know, for that reason, but everybody's so anxious to get back to the world. And honestly, it's a little overwhelming for me. Because that space where it was me and my thoughts, where I could escape them, because I was running from sun up to sundown, and I just fell out at night. And then I get up and do it again. Rinse and repeat. And so I feel like I found out a lot of things about myself, and I found out a lot of likes and dislikes. I was able to decide even more, to narrow down the type of clients that I wanted to work with. Like, I get to have a choice. You know, before
Right.
it was a hustle. I took clients because I had to pay my car note. You know, and now, you know, because that's a scarcity mentality. I'm like, if you're drawing on my energy level, then that's not worth the money. Like, am I willing to surrender that check for my sanity? And the older I get, the more I'm like,
yeah, no, it's one
yeah,
of my
no.
clients would say that's the young people things, right? Just taking everything that comes at you. You know better, you know what your energy is worth, you know what you are worth, and I'd rather be still in this moment than make a unit price on the one person for that hour.
Yeah, because we're all in. Like when I train, I'm all in. And I mean like 120%. And the first yoga certification I took, I will never remember. Kiri told me, she said, she asked me, did I realize how much energy that I leak? And I was like, what? Like, what? This was 2013. I'm like, what is she talking about? It took me years to realize that I give so much of myself. My career basically started because I was the girl that worked behind the sales desk. And when I started teaching and people realized I could teach, I was literally everywhere. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 gyms a week. And I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to teach. And people wanted me here, people wanted me there. And that leaking energy was part of people pleasing, but also feeling like I needed to do all the things to be considered legitimate or taken seriously. And I couldn't figure out, like, the guest you had before me was like, it's almost like phantom pain. Like all this stuff is happening to your body and there's no real like I literally thought there was going to be a show called Hypochondriacs and I was going to be the lead guest because so many things were happening to my body and I didn't understand the relationship of what I was doing to myself. My kids were still young, because I had to do all the things, and that is being able to. A girl told, if you ever see me with a scarf on my head, it's either I'm having a bad hair day or a girl told me in a training, she's like, that's how you, when you feel like that, cover your head. I was like, hey, Kira. I was like, wow. And so when I feel like I'm training a client that's energy draining or that I have to stop myself from giving so much, I'll cover my head.
As a symbolic reminder.
Physically, I'll put a wrap on my head.
Powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it could be either way. Tasha's having a bad hair day. I just like baseball caps because my dad wouldn't let me wear them.
We're unpacking everything today, Tasha.
But gangs.
Yes.
Yeah. Gangs, you know, and I mean, you could scratch your head, your hat turns this way, and it could be your life. So my dad so I love baseball caps. So sometimes I'll have them on because I like them. And sometimes I'll have it on because I need to protect my energy.
You touched on people pleasing.
Yeah.
And also there's a piece in there about identity. And it's just, as I was reading people's comments, going back to Brooke's comment, yes, around stillness is actually to ensure quiet. The quiet time, because there's so much clarity then from the inside out. That stillness and that quiet, I think of like Brooke, she closed her studio this year and now she's doing a lot of work just like remotely and she has her online presence. There's a sense of having an identity in one sphere and then that changing and then having to redefine who you are, where you are. And it's that place of quiet that helps you to get that. I put a post up this week where it said, there's a picture of me in my car. I'm just sitting somewhere. I can't remember where it was. I just drove to the middle of nowhere and I was sitting there. And the caption said, it took a lot of disquiet to come to this place of quiet. And I feel like this is the time, this day, this week, whatever it is, a time where we can appreciate the disquiet to come to this place of quiet and still to be able to go into next day, next chapter, the next piece of who we want to be with a confidence, with a new identity, with a new script for all those different things. So like that's why like in all the elements of what we're talking about, all these things come together in a place of saying, this is where I am, this is who I am. I'm not making any apologies for that. I'm not going to give room to things that are going to detract from that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's like, in my thought, going to hell and realizing I never want to go back. You know, like remembering those things that took me to places that I didn't want to be, and that I was driving that train, like taking responsibility for the things that I did to myself. And I'm just looking at Kiri, girl, I'll have a head wrap on and I keep a bottle of sage in my car. Like when I say energy protection, I mean like for real, for real. But it does take that disruption in order it's the calm after the storm, and to be willing to ride out the storm instead of being mad at the storm, and instead of like believing if the storm was everybody else's fault. Like you're spending so much time on the storm that you can't walk into the calm because you're still pissed off.
You're still suffering
about the storm, you know. And it is, I sent a card to my clients this year and to most people, and it says, after the rain comes the rainbow. And I said, I don't know what's getting ready to happen to my business, but I'm here for the rainbow, whatever that looks like, you know, because I'm tired, Martin, of the disquiet in all the ways. And so many of us have FOMO, that we don't have quiet because we feel like we need to be in and around everything all the time. And I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, because if I'm supposed to be there, then I will be there. And if I'm not supposed to be there,
real talk,
then I won't be there.
So what is the remedy for FOMO, right? Because like, this isn't like your buddies at a party. Like this is like industry, income, status.
Well, two things. One, I remember that Instagram is a highlight reel.
Right.
That's the first thing. The other thing, honestly, is that I log off of this thing. Because, like I said, I pull things to me, like just very energetically sensitive. And I realized that all it would take was a couple of shuffles and I'd end up on something, and my mood would change. Just like that.
Yep.
And so I have had to be curious. Yeah. And so I want to support my friends. I'm looking at what people are doing. But the minute I start to feel my energy shift, like, oh, you know, I want to be able to do that. Or, oh, I wish I had this. Or, oh, look at where she's teaching. I want to be able to do that. And it was to immediately, and when I say immediate, I mean immediate, shut the thing down.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to, hear it exactly. And I think it's different in this time because so many of us started our careers before social media existed.
Swept up into today.
And so I want to go back to, and people are like, did you record your class? I'm like, no, because if I was teaching Zumba at the gym, there's no recording of that. Like, I don't want you to, like, it's part, and I understand that's the marketing thing. I totally get it, y'all. But I feel like classes are personal, and I don't want someone else sitting back looking at the people who were on camera or what they were working through. Like, it's that group. If I'm, if I'm recording myself, that's different. But I'm just like, no, you just missed it. And then, do you know how many of us have Zooms links that we never watch? We pay for the classes, but we never watch them. You know, and so it is making myself present for the things that I want to be present for, period. that has to be it. And I just believe that if something
space.
happens
Absolutely.
and I'm not supposed to
I'm gonna
be
read Kira's
there.
comment too, because it won't come up in the replay. So Kira's comment said, go back to your original intentions for starting, your why, and operate then from a place of integrity. Integrity is, I feel like we're just beat up every topic today, but there's so many things I think we need to walk into 22 with just a firm, squared up footing on. And that's exactly it. Like just that consistency of our character. It doesn't get swayed or distracted by what the latest trend is. You want to layer that stuff in, fine, but don't pull away from who you are and why you started what you're doing. So that's a great comment, Kira. Thank you.
Yeah, basically, what I used to tell my student was mind your own map. So mind your own business. And what I mean by that is Instagram, social media is such a rabbit hole. You see somebody's post and you're like, how does she get there? And you're like going back and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm going to use Kira as an example because Kira is here and I'm secretly a Kira stalker. And I've already told her before, so she's okay with that. So if people see Kira doing, not only is Kira an amazing Pilates instructor, and when you see Kira in spaces now, thinking, I want to be where she is and I should be able to, what you have to realize is that, first of all, Kira has an entire career. Kira is a professional dancer and an aerialist. And there's a skill set that she had other than what you see. So we have to stop believing that everybody's an overnight success. No, you just met her. That doesn't mean that her success and her career wasn't already happening. And so when she's saying integrity, it's a building. Like there's levels to this. Like you don't get to graduate from college and automatically be the principal. That's not the way it works. You know, and so the integrity is to go through the steps, but social media can make it look like there are no steps. Yeah. And you can't. And so that's what I say with the integrity is, you know, as a Jan Van Zandt would say, do your work. Your work.
Right.
Do your work. Yes, exactly. Yes. And she's a massage therapist. Say that. So I'm saying all of that to say that you're not going to wake up. Like for me to feel like I should be able to do what Kira does.
Thank you.
Is insanity. And if I have FOMO over that sister earned that. You know, and so I think that's when we're talking about the integrity piece is to, my girlfriend used to say, everything ain't for everybody all the time. And so to admire her and maybe follow her journey, ask her a question, but don't get mad because you're not there.
And you know, that's one thing, Tasha, that I love doing on these core conversations chats is giving someone permission to brag. Because we pull back and we stay in this humble place, which is nice, is admirable, is noble. So when I say talk about what you do, what degree do you have? Where have you spoken before? What have you done? All those things. I'm giving you permission to just brag and to boast of your achievements, your accomplishments. People like shy back from that, and that's why I have to keep pulling them out. But we've been in this game for a minute. There are some fantastic people out there that have done some things and been some places, and what we see looks like instant success, but they got 20 years under their belt.
Yeah. That key, I've talked about this publicly, so I'll just say it, that's how I was raised. Like, so I would get beat up, you know, for bragging about having all A's. Again, I had to hide my school books because I went to a different school than the neighborhood kids. And so I've learned, if you ask me what I do, there are sometimes I forget because I'm so used to not talking about it. And my cousin said to me, she was like, Tosh, she's like, no. I need you to brag because we hear all the bad stuff. She's like, I'm ready to watch somebody win. And it hit me because this is my baby cousin. It hit me. She was like, we need to see you win. We need to see you win. And I went on Facebook. It was probably like right around IDEA. And I posted all this stuff. And it was like people had no idea. They're like, why didn't you tell anybody? Well, I didn't think it was that important. No, I had been taught not to brag, share. And so anybody who's worked with me that needs a biography from me will tell you I'm the worst person to ask for a biography, because I'll be like, well, I don't know. I live in Alabama. I have 2 kids. I went to Tennessee State and I teach a few classes. And they're like, you have got to be kidding me. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you want me to write some more? You know, it is so difficult. And that's the emerge part, that maybe my podcast for tomorrow is the ownership of saying, you know, like, nobody knew what people that knew I was studying for a test, but I had to explain it like this. I didn't become a health coach. That's not what I did. I have 2 health coaching certifications that took me years to complete. What I did was, like a lawyer graduates from law school, I passed my board exam. That's what I did. But I, you know, one little post, I never talked about it, changed the little letters on LinkedIn, and that was it. And I feel like so many of us have been taught to bypass that. Literally, I have forgotten a lot of, I'm like, oh girl, I forgot I did that. And so I think that's important for you to say, and ownership. We wouldn't even call it brag, call it ownership, because you did it. Yeah.
I sound like I'm boasting right now, but I think that's part of the safe space that I'm trying to create here for people. Because otherwise, much like sales, you don't want to be that slimy salesperson. You don't want to be the person who brags and boasts about all the things you have. Well, no, actually, let's talk about you for a moment. Let's celebrate you and the ownership of the work that you put in, and the investment you put in yourself for the sake of others that you're going to touch. That's all big stuff.
Yeah. It is, and we can't worry about the people who do it because they're flaunting or they're using it as some type of scheme. That's their business, but it has nothing to do. People know when you're authentically sharing and there is no underlying motive. You know, people can feel that. Like you can't fake that kind of stuff. Like you just can't. And so yeah, I'm for the ownership. Because I told one of my clients, I'm laughing now because this was years ago, but I told her I used to play the baritone in elementary school. And she said, what? I was like, well, I went to magnet school. She's like, you did? And I was like, yeah. And, you know, I said, I, you know, had 7 years of Spanish, a year of French, and I used to speak Swahili before I graduated from high school. And she's like looking at me like this, almost like, I mean, you did this. I mean, it was like and I said, before I caught myself, I said, please do not let this Nike fool you at all. I was like, before I ever came into the gym space, I had a master's degree. And it was like, I said it because I was mad, not like an ownership, but I said it because I was mad. But it was like, yeah, like just because you see people in leggings and a t-shirt doesn't mean that's all there is. And even if it is, these people have worked hard to get in their positions. And so not only about ownership, but respecting other people in our space and their experience and their expertise, and not feel like we always have to one up each other.
That's what's up.
That's the other part of that.
So
I'm here for that.
Everyone, we were talking, Tasha and I were talking about doing this chat, and we were bouncing around times because, you know, like we're both easy with it. Like we could do it whenever. And I'm like, I have all the time in the world for you, Tasha. And she's like, I can make this happen whenever. But I felt like it needed to be done in 21. Like, so you could dig your heels into the sand, square up, and be ready for 22.
Yeah, exactly. What you like, square up. Exactly. And Tracy Stanley is having something like, I usually don't do like New Year's Eve. I don't do anything on New Year's Eve, honestly, other than teach. We used to have a class, all like we would teach in parts. And I had been doing that for years, and our group fitness director left, and it's not happening this year. And it made me extremely sad, like giving up giving up a ritual. And I was almost later because I ran into one of the old students in the parking lot. She's like, I miss you. And and giving that up. But this year, what I usually do, Martin, is I go to bed early. I'm never up at midnight. But when it's quiet on New Year's Day, I get up before everyone. And that's when I sit and I write and I think. And that's always been my ritual. And I think that's Tracy Stanley's thing. If you don't know, Tracy Stanley is amazing. Like if you want stillness, you need to be with Tracy Stanley because she does yoga nidra. But even when she talks, I mean, it's just, my God. Like I just love her in the meditation space and all that. And that's the only other thing I'm doing besides I'm probably going to go back to the gym and blast house music and, dance on the stair climber because I can and clean up. And because my grandma was very adamant about not washing on New Year's Day, I'm going to wash my clothes tonight. And, but it's square up, clean up this space. Cause when I wake up in the morning, I need the fresh start. Like I need it. And people are like, you could do it any day. I could, but I need the fresh start. And it is on a day when I don't have to go to work. And I thank God for the Saturday, January 1st, that Tasha doesn't have to go to work, that she can get up before her family and do my writing and my praying and my meditating and my thinking and to get myself in the mindset that it is not out of my control. COVID is out of my control. Tasha is not out of my control.
Absolutely.
And I have to
finish off on the words that Anita just put in the chat here.
Yeah.
She's saying, thank you for your time. Great words of wisdom to finish strong and to start well. I screenshot that already.
Oh, I love that. Finish strong and start well. That's another just for today. Just for today. I'm going to start well. I'm going to finish strong.
Absolutely.
And when I get up in the morning, I'm going to start well. Wow.
Thank you. Big hugs, my friend. Man,
thank you.
So
Same.
Good.
Same. This was therapeutic.
Yeah, Anita was. So. I said to Anita, like my head was swirling going into this. My headphones died a long time. But yeah, so this captures a lot of what I was thinking. I this would be on paper. I'm having it in person. That you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If we were having coffee on a Finish Strong Friday, we'd be writing in our journals. Yes.
Good stuff. All right, I'm gonna log you off, and I thank you so much. Much love. Thank you to everyone who joined us as well. For those who stuck around for this marathon, I still see you. Thank you, and Jared, and all good stuff. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, everyone. I don't know how much I'm gonna post at this point. I feel like I'm done on a screen for the year after this. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever else I was gonna do is just like you're not gonna see me anymore. That this is it. I'm full. That was solid. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye, y'all.